Hi, everybody. I'm Liz,
And I'm Rob.
and together we are
Liz
Liz
and
and
Rob.
Rob. So here we are for our next episode of our Liz and Rob podcast, and we're starting out as we always do with our secret snack. So
Secret surprise snacks.
surprise snack. So since today is a Friday and yesterday was Tea Party Day, your secret snack is your choice of three leftover baked goods from the
Oh,
Tea Party.
what kind are
You
they?
have a strawberry banana muffin,
Uh-huh.
a chocolate chip banana muffin,
Uh-huh.
or a brownie bite.
Awesome. I'm
So,
going to take the brownie bite.
all right. And your tea is lemon ginger.
Lemon ginger tea.
Okay.
And your pastry is one of the things you cooked yesterday for somebody else. So, surprise.
So this is a strawberry banana muffin. So I'm excited. So we'll be sharing muffins.
What's the name for pastry chef people? You know, like how coffee
not.
people are baristas?
No, we're not.
I know.
We're just snack
That would have
eaters.
been the joke, but yeah, okay.
We're snack eaters.
Yes.
When we were discussing a theme for today, because we're trying to keep it unscripted, I had thought for a lot of us in New York, this is the first week back to school. And often, as a teacher or even as a student, the first week of school, you did some version of the how I spent my summer vacation. So we probably will get to that conversation. But what I wanted to start with this week, yesterday was Thursday, and we had an amazing tea party. Those of you who are getting to know us, once a week I throw what we call a beloved community in Bryant Park. It's free and it's open to the public. And every week it is special. But this week was super special, and there were so many magical things that I wanted to start out talking about that. But before we start, I want to say this is our 11th year that we've been doing the tea parties in Bryant Park. And recently I observed to you that they've always been lovely, they've always been wonderful, but especially in the last 2 or 3 years, they've been extra magical. And I couldn't explain it. And I said that to you. And you said you could explain it. And unlike me, you are not a man of many words. So when you said you could explain it, I really listened. So I want to know if you could just kind of share with people what you said you had observed about the evolution of the Tea Party.
I likened it. I usually try to, whenever I make analogies, they're usually science based, and I said, essentially you're a magnet, and magnets do one of two things: they attract metal, or they can attract other magnets, usually from different poles, but that's a whole different thing. Anyway, and when a magnet attracts metal, some of that energy pulls away from that magnet onto the metal. But when magnets attract other magnets, they become stronger magnets.
So I loved that idea. And I realized, and then what you said was a few years ago, when we were first starting, people just came because they saw the cups and they would join me. And kind of the way we do it is if someone walks by and inquires about the cups or what's going on, we always tell them what's going on, that it's free, it's open to everyone, and you can join us for a cup of tea. But in 2017, someone from the park noticed what we were doing, asked about us, and they asked if they could put me in touch with the PR. And then the New York Times sent a reporter, and he wrote a little article about us, in which I named specifically that my intent was to foster and provide an experience of Dr. King's vision of beloved community. So the people that started a kind of finding us once that intention had been set in the world, I think just kind of came with that intention, and there was more of a shared idea of community and how it could spread. So, just to backtrack, the last week's been a little just different because last Thursday when I got to the park, I realized although I had my phone when I got on the train, I did not have my phone when I got to the park. And that's a frustrating thing. I was sitting in the park all day, no way to know where the phone is when I had lost it. And when I got home, Rob was able to trace it to a location right off the F train, which is how I travel. And I thought, oh, that's great. I'm going to run. Someone found my phone. They turned it into the Lost and Found. And when I got there, the gentleman who ran the Lost and Found was super helpful, but he said, it's not here. And I said, but my phone is pinging right in this area. So when I asked this very nice man if he could go one extra step, I said, could you text my husband at this number and you could find out if it's still pinging in this area? And if so, could you get it more exact? So he did, and he pulled it up, and it was a spot a block away. And so I thought, oh, someone has my phone. I'm going to go. I'm going to explain that I'm the owner. And when I got there, what I found was a place of business where there was a kiosk where you can deposit phones for recycling.
Not just phones for recycling.
Oh, for cash. You put your phone in and you get cash out for the phone. So I knew that that's where my phone was, and it was pinging in that kiosk. And I talked to the person who owned the business, and I understood that they don't control the kiosk, etc. So after going back and forth, I called the company, and what it finally ended up after filing claims and all that, they told me that it could take up to 38 days from the time I reported to if they find it in our system. I said, not if, it's right there, I know it's there. I might get my phone back. So I was just kind of frustrated with, do I go through this process, whatever. And I realized that's really not a huge problem as problems go. But when I got to the park yesterday, I said, you know what? I'm just going to sit here. I couldn't sit on my phone when I put out the stuff waiting for the first person to come. Not sitting on my phone. I'm not doing anything but just kind of sitting here and observing and just being with what is. And then all these magical people came to the table. There was one person who just walked by, and she had the most beautiful hat that was clearly handmade. It was beautiful, quilted two-fabric hat. And we made eye contact. And she said, it's that thing in New York. You make eye contact, then you pretend you don't, and then we looked at each other. And I said, I really love your hat. And she said, I really love your cups. And we sat down and had a cup of tea. And we had a lot in common, and I loved that. And then another woman walked by, and I wanted to look this up. I'm going to ask you to look something up while we're on the phone. I know. And she joined us, and I said, is there anything you would like us to know? And she said, yes, I just wrote a book. I said, you wrote a book? I said, do you want to say more? And she said, yes, it's about my grandmother. And I said, what about your grandmother? And she said, my grandmother defied Mussolini. And I said, what? And she said, in Ethiopia. And she said, she just said she always wanted to write this story. And during COVID, she had gotten sick. And she thought, I don't want my grandmother's story to die with me. So she wrote a book about her grandmother. It looks like a children's book, this lovely story of her grandmother that she finally told. And then after that, people started coming. And I looked up at one point, and the gentleman who wrote the New York Times article, who I thank every year, I send him an email to thank him for the beautiful things that have been brought in. And he was just walking through the park, and I haven't seen him this year yet. And I was just so grateful. And he sat down, and we caught up, and we had a nice time talking. But not only that, when I had gotten there, I had forgotten the placemats. I've never forgotten the placemats. And one of my friends who comes often said, Liz, I was at the thrift store, and I saw these placemats that I thought you might like that go. So I was able to put placemats down. And it was just like, it was that kind of day. People were coming together that just had beautiful stories and connecting stories. A friend from high school came, and she brought with her someone that I had had an exchange with earlier in the park. It was just this kind of beautiful, beautiful day. And I said, this is what Rob kind of was talking about. All we do is kind of sit there, and these beautiful people who are attracted to the cups or the energy or whatever's going on. It was just a beautiful day of connection. And I hope that a lot of you, if you ever come to New York, that you get a chance to come and sit together and just have an experience of what it's like to sit in a park any time of the day for minutes or hours and just have an exchange of conversation with no agenda with other people, just have tea and connect. So I just wanted to share that it was really this magical, when I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know, I had started the day feeling a little frustrated. When I just sat there in peace, I was just really open to everything that came, and everything just was more magical than the next. That's
awesome.
it.
Cool.
So how was your day?
Oh, my day was great. What did I do today?
No. Yesterday while I was gone.
Oh, when I was gone, we watched. Josh and I watched Prey for a different podcast the two of us are on, Stabby Road. And then I did some editing, and that was pretty much my whole day.
All right.
Other than I also did some writing because I'm writing two different things right now.
You don't want to say more about those yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. So.
I will say okay. I will.
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Yeah. This is.
I will say that the two of them, and this is completely by coincidence, sort of exorcise the relationship I have with my mother and my father. And so, but they're two different projects altogether, and I didn't even realize it until I started writing it. One by myself and one with another writer.
I know, and I know I'm very excited, and I know how important these are to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can say more of those as the projects unfold.
Yeah, as we unfold, you'll hear loads about it.
So then I guess maybe we could get to that other topic about how we spent our summer vacation, because we really did have an amazing summer as a family. And do you want to tell them a little bit about what has mainly been going on with our family this summer?
Most of our time has been wonderfully utilized putting to help our sons, Josh and Jake, shoot their film, Violet Hearts. I'm in it, and I'm also one of the producers, and just in it. Apparently, Josh is also eating one of those surprise muffins.
I didn't realize that was...
That's okay. That's
That's
okay.
all right.
Surprise secret
Now you have
snacks
to
are
put
for
it in front of the
everybody.
lens.
Yeah, you just have to show everybody.
Just grabbing a
Yeah,
brownie.
All right.
Brownie, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Brownie bite. All right.
Here, I'll hold it.
Yep,
There
there
you
it is. The
All
brownies are delicious, by the way.
All right.
And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. You've had an interesting time because I was sort of, being in the film, but also, and certainly not as big a part as so many of the other really talented actors that are in the film. My part is relatively small, but relatively significant, and I got to act with some wonderful people as well. You had a different role on the film.
I did. I had a really exciting summer. And what I did was, so that we could keep production costs down, I had said I would do all of the craft services. And it's a crew, I think, on any given day between 15 and 20 people. And the boys asked me if I could feed a crew of that size for a 30-day shoot. And I said, absolutely. And I got really excited. And I said, I'm going to spend... There were two people I was thinking about the whole time when I was thinking about my dreams of hanging out with the crew and feeding people. And the first was, of course, Mama Scorsese. And I always remember Martin Scorsese's mom used to cook for the crew, and they're a little...
Catherine Scorsese.
Catherine Scorsese.
Yes, uh-huh.
And I thought, I'm going to spend my summer being Catherine Scorsese. And it really has been this beautiful process. Every single person in the cast and crew is not only super talented, but each of them, I know on sets, there's sometimes called hurry up and wait. Mm-hmm. There's downtime sometimes and mealtime, and it's those spaces where you get to sit and connect.
Right.
And at one point, we were going to be they shot at a single location way out on Long Island, and the family was nice enough to say that anyone who had to travel far could spend the week there. And I did, and I kind of lugged all my food, and I got up and I cooked breakfast and lunch and dinner for everybody. Right. And it was really a beautiful experience to learn each of these people is just such a fascinating, interesting person on their own. So I loved that process.
But let me just say that also you've been training for this. Because ever since the kids were little, we have the way our house is set up. Pretty much this is like if you follow Harry Potter or something. We were like the Weasleys because this is where all the kids would come and play.
Yeah.
And so you would be doing this normally. You would be feeding everybody.
Yeah.
And you would be, and you'd also be like, you would know every kid. You'd know what they liked and didn't like. And it was important if it was important to them, it was important to you that they got what they wanted to eat and or they enjoyed it. So you didn't just make, if a kid didn't like macaroni and cheese, that kid was not getting macaroni and cheese.
Oh, no. You got to make everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
their favorite foods.
Yeah. And so that you've been like sort of, this is like your, this is like your Jedi moment. The other stuff was like training with Yoda, Yoda being the kids. Is that the analogy? Anyway,
I don't know.
but the house was Dagobah.
Oh,
Anyway,
all right. Okay. Dagobah's good.
Anyway, but you've gotten to this now. This is you. This is you like what you've trained for, and so it's funny because in some ways you were like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but in other ways you're like, oh, I got this. I have this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
you
been
weren't you weren't worried about what you were going to do. You were just
No.
more worried about like the sort of the volume of friends that were now hanging out and playing with our sons.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. But there's another one, and I have said this to friends, so some of you know this. When I was a little girl, also my very first favorite TV show was The Partridge Family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, for those of you who don't know, it's about a family, the mom
Yeah.
and the
Just go to-
kids.
just look it up on Tubi. You'll figure it out. Yeah.
Well, the mom and kids. It's a mother with 5 kids,
Right.
and they form a band and they go on the road together. When I was a little girl, I thought, oh, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a mom, and we're going to go on the road, and we're going to have a band, and we're going to sing as a family. And it didn't work out that way. It didn't end up in the rock band that I thought I was going to be in. But we become this film family. And we go on the road and we go to festivals and we go to different events, or you go on the road on set. And to me, it's really a fun, exciting way to have spent our summer. And you and I talk about this a lot, right? Every parent does things right and every parent does things wrong. But the fact
Yeah.
that our kids wanted to spend their summer with us helping them create this project felt really good to me as a mom.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. Yeah, that's pretty much how we spent our summer.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add about what it was like for you? Because you really played a beautiful part.
I
the
can't.
film.
I will say it was. I was a little hesitant at first, not because I mean I had acted in the past, but not a lot. I'm not an actor, but I have acted, and this part required a lot of acting on my part, and so I had to sort of really dig deep in places I don't normally go. At least not. I do in front of you, but not necessarily in front of other people. So that was a bit of a thing that I had to just. It was a part of me that I had to let go, in terms of masking myself in front of other people, and so I had to. But actors and performers do that normally. They have no problems showing their emotions in front of other people. I do, and so that was something I had to teach myself to let go, so that I could give a performance that both my sons were satisfied with. So that I will, and I think I did a good job. I'm hoping I did.
You did a good job.
And so that was that. But it's interesting because I can't go into a lot of details
Yeah.
without giving things away. So I'm just sort of talking around it.
Yeah, and as the summer ended, the boys are finishing up production, and now they go into the post-production phase. But I am so proud. Not only, yes, you did a beautiful job, right? We've all been looking at the footage, but the whole film is something I'm really proud of, and I can't wait
Yeah.
till we can get to show it and share it with everyone.
Yeah.
And then you'll really understand how we spent our summer.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because it's like it's one thing for if you're when you talk as parents you can go, oh, it's wonderful, it's this, it's that, but I'm not talking as a parent, right? I'm talking as an objective filmmaker. It's a really good film.
Yeah.
It's a really good script, and what they've shot so far looks fantastic, and so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because I don't want to make it just sound like, oh, it's my kid, it's gonna be fine, but because if it wasn't, I would say something.
Yeah.
So
And he has.
and but that's that. How much time do we have left? Because we might save this for the next week.
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
You have the 20-minute mark.
Okay,
Oh.
because people have asked for this because I sort of mentioned it in the last episode, and I think it would be a great way of ending this episode, which is how we talked about how we met, but we never really talked about our first date. And I think that's just a sort of kind of funny and exciting and sweet and things like that. So you talked about how last episode that you had to get. Did you talk about getting the dress and all that or no?
No.
Okay, so
I
all right. So
didn't.
let's start from there. You started at there was the weird copy shop guy that asked you out the same day that I did
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And then me. So then you chose me to go on to call and go on the date. And it was embarrassing because I was home. You remember that from last week. Okay, so now I'm going to start with you because you had to get dressed and all this sort of stuff.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, I didn't tell her what the date was. I just said we're going to meet at Penn Station.
No, you did say it was like some kind of big movie. It
Yeah,
was
it was
a
a
big
movie
event.
event. It was a movie
big
event. Okay.
movie event.
but that's all I said it was.
No.
So anyway, and I'll go into what it was in a second, but start with you now having to get dressed.
Yeah. Well, it was December, first of all. It was December 22nd. It was really cold. And I had no idea what I was going to wear. But I had a roommate, my roommate from college who I was no longer living with. I reached out to her and I asked if she had any like fancy dresses, and she did. And she FedExed me 3 dresses, and I picked one because I just wanted to look perfect. So I got this really nice dress. It was like a black lacy kind of Stevie Nicks-y dress, and I borrowed a fancy coat. I didn't have a fancy winter coat, so I borrowed a fancy winter coat from my other roommate. And I said it felt like when Cinderella, when the mice and the birds were helping her get ready for the ball, that first dress. And then I met you at Penn Station, and then you can take it from there.
So yes, we meet at Penn Station, and again, this is our very first date. But this is the first time I've seen her since we saw each other at the comedy club. And so what happened was a good friend of mine by the name of Steve Strangio and we were supposed to be. So there was a guy on the island who was supposed to be producing a movie, and he wanted us to help produce this movie. I don't even remember the dude's name. Long story short, it became a colossal scam. But he was having a party at a place called Stringfellows, which at the time was a club. It ended up being they ended up becoming a gentleman's club, which is a nice word for strip
But
club.
it was not that.
It was
when
not
we
that
went
at the
on our
time.
date. Okay.
So, but they were having a party to kick off the announcement of this big movie that he was going to make, and we were piggybacking on a Broadway premiere of a play called Checkers, or was it Chess? No, Chess is the American
I
Russian
don't
one.
remember.
It was Checkers, and it starred like Ruby Dee and a whole bunch of people in it. So we shared that party. So we get out of Penn Station. I see her. We start talking, and we're like, all right, let's just go. And we walked. We were going to take a taxi, but we decided to walk. And we held hands, actually, which is really odd for a first date. We held hands all the way down to Bleecker Street. So Penn
From
Station to
34th
Bleecker Street.
Street, yeah.
This was December 22nd, and it was 15 degrees outside.
Cool.
But I don't remember. I just remember walking and holding hands. I don't remember how cold it was. It didn't seem relevant because we were just having such a great time talking and stuff
Yeah.
like that. We stopped at a Chinese restaurant, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a really great restaurant down on Bleecker Street, right next to the Actors Studio. And so I'll let you talk about that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was wearing this very fancy dress, and we were having Chinese food, and we didn't eat Chinese food a lot when I was little, and when we did, we used forks. And I went to eat with the fork, and Rob said to me, "Oh no, you have to eat it with
Yeah,
chopsticks.
you gotta have
You have to eat
chopsticks.
with chopsticks."
With a Chinese
And
restaurant.
I said, "Oh no, I'm in this borrowed dress, and I don't know how to use chopsticks, and I know I'm gonna spill everything all over it." So I was like so carefully taking my chopsticks, okay,
Right.
and eating.
Yeah.
And then I noticed later, and you were doing this on purpose because you really do eat with chopsticks.
Yes.
And at one point, I saw you eating with your fork,
Yes.
and I said, "You said we have to eat with chopsticks."
And I said, "No, you have to eat with chopsticks." And I did that just to sort of break the ice. To
No,
see
and
if,
you said to me because you said you didn't know how to, so I thought you should. He said, "I know."
Yeah,
how.
I didn't know how to.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you should. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was also too like because I wanted to see the type of sense of humor you had.
Yeah.
Because if you had gotten angry at it or short with it, I would have been like, all right, this date's not going to last very long. But you actually
I did
you
laugh.
laughed out
I thought
loud.
that was hilarious.
And it was hilarious. And you went you calmly put the chopsticks down and finished it with a fork. But still, you rolled with it, and I thought that was
Yeah.
great. And so we went from there. We met up with Steve and his date. Her name also was Liz, by the way. And we went to the place, and it was it was what it was. There was a Elvis impersonator there. There was who was supposed to be in our film. And so and we met up. There was a very young, almost unknown Denzel Washington was there, and Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis were there, who were heroes of mine in terms of marriage, because they were married for so long, and they were so. I was like, oh, I thought that was a kind of an omen for our first date to actually see them, literally in a corner at the age that they were, like still holding hands and kissing, and I thought that was an interesting. Omen for us, but that essentially. Then we ended the date, and so I'll let you finish with that.
I mean,
We went back
well,
to
we went for a long.
another long walk. Yeah.
Yeah, we really walked back to Penn Station, and you know, it was Christmas time. It's funny, right? We got back up walking towards Penn Station. We passed Macy's,
34th Street on
34th
Macy's.
Street,
Yes.
Macy's, and we had our first kiss. We had our first kiss on that corner of Macy's,
Mm-hmm.
and that really did seem magical. So the whole night, like you said, just seemed like this magical, beautiful thing. And then you
I put you in a cab. Yeah,
and
I didn't want
came
you. I
home.
didn't want you to take a bus and
Yeah,
train
yeah.
home.
No,
Yeah.
and I came home, and it was like floating on air, and I spent the whole next day talking to my roommates about how amazing you were.
So that was our first date,
Yeah.
and I think that's it, right?
Okay, so we
anything else?
covered Tea Party.
Covered Tea Party,
We covered summer vacation.
summer vacation. We
and
covered
we
our
covered
first date.
We
I
can't
think
use
those-
up all our stories in one.
No, we can't, because next week we'll just be like we'll be folding paper airplanes or something. All right, so that's it, right?
It is. And how are we going to end it?
I love you.
I love you too.
All right,
All right.
bye.
Bye from Liz and Rob.